Okay, Java 8, Lambda expression and method reference. So we are going to learn what is and why you want to use method reference, and we are going to see 4 different types of method references. So what is and why method reference? So method reference is just a compact and simpler and more readable form of a Lambda expression for already existing method. So if you have existing method that is compliant with method signature of the functional interface, then you don't have to create new new implementation. You can just use that existing method as a method reference. And in order to use it as a method reference, you are going to use semicolon, not semicolon, colon, double colon actually. That is the operator that you are going to use for method reference. So let's see an example here. So I want to emphasize the second bullet as well. The method signature of the existing method must match with the one of function interface. Okay, so if they do not match, then you cannot use it as a method reference. Okay, that makes sense, right? So let's say we have a Lambda expression. So I'm gonna call it. I have my functional interface. Okay, and then I have. So the way that I'm gonna define that function interface is the arguments. So I'm gonna receive name and age argument, and then in terms of using those 2 arguments, I have existing static method from my class, and I pass name and age. Suppose I have this existing method that is actually compliant with the method signature of my functional interface, then I should be able to use here my class colon existing static method. So when Lambda compiler take a look at my class colon existing static method, it will take a look at the method signature of the existing static method, and it will take a look at all the arguments and their types and see whether that matches with the method defined in the functional interface. If they match, then it is a good one. Alright, it lets you use this method reference. Okay, so that is the method reference example. Method reference is basically, again, simpler way of writing Lambda expression. Okay, in general, if the method reference is a little bit confusing to you, then you can always change it back to Lambda expression. Okay, and once you get used to it, method reference is actually providing simpler notation. So if you actually compare this Lambda expression here, red colored line here and here, you can see method reference is a bit simpler to use, right? Okay, but it might actually take a little bit of getting used to. Okay, so let's take a look at the 4 different types of method references. Okay, so the first type is the one that we just saw. So this is the method reference to a static method. So in this case, the notation is going to be you provide the name of your class, and then you provide your static method. So it's going to be colon my static method. The second type of method reference is actually for object creation. So you can actually use the new constructor. So class name colon new. An example is, for example, if you're creating a string object, you could actually use a string colon new as a Lambda expression. And then reference to an instance method of a particular object. So instead of a static method, if you happen to have an instance method, then you provide an object and then colon and then you provide instance method. So instead of using static method, you could use instance method. Okay. The last one is a little bit complex one. So it's reference to instance method of an arbitrary object of a particular type. So in this case, you're going to actually use instance method, but you are providing containing type here. So in this case, string is a type, and then we have a colon compared to ignore case. So except the last one, number 4, the first 3 are relatively easy to understand. So let's actually move on with these 3 method references, and then we're going to spend some more time on the number 4, because number 4 again requires some explanation. So let's just focus on the first 3. So the first one is reference to a static method. So as I said, suppose if you have a functional interface, in this case, I'm going to call it my functional interface, and it contains a single method which takes the name and age. Okay. And now, if you happen to have a class, so here I have a class called the my class, and this class has static method called existing static method. And if this existing static method has the same method signature with the method of a function interface, in this case string name and int age, then anytime, any place that my function interface is used, I should be able to use this existing static method. Okay, so that is an example. So here I'm using my existing static method of my class, okay, and then it's receiving name and age, and I'm doing something with that, right? Okay, so instead of this I can actually do this, my class : existing static method. So this is what I explained in the beginning of this presentation. Okay. Okay, so this is relatively straightforward. So let's do static method, the exercise. So here I have imported all the example code. So we are going to try. Yes, we have a bunch of exercises. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one. Lambda method reference static method 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, and yeah. So let's actually see the first example. So here I'm going to make this one actually expanded here. Okay, so let's see this guy. So we have my class is the static method. Okay, so and then we have my function interface. It's basically, it doesn't, this is an example, this is a simple example from the one we have seen in the slide. So my function interface has a very simple method which doesn't even take an argument, and this is my class. My class has another static method which doesn't take any arguments. So if you see these two guys together, you can see they have the same method signature because they don't have any arguments. Okay, so in main method, okay, so in main method, so we have created my function interface in the form of anonymous inner class. So I have my function interface, and then I have the method name called the my single abstract method, and I provide implementation. In this case, I'm just executing existing static method. Okay, so this is the anonymous inner class example, and this is a lambda expression. So basically, what I do is take this argument, right, and then provide this logic here. Okay, and so this and this is the same thing, and then I'm actually using method reference. Okay, because again the method signature of the function interface is the same as my class method signature of existing static method. Okay, so I should be able to use my class : existing method. Okay, and it should work exactly the same. Okay, so if I run this guy, and it will just say existing static method is called, and that's basically what I have in the my class here. Okay, all right. Okay, so that is a simple example. Okay, and now let's take a look at the next one. So that is a case that we have learned, we have actually looked into in our lab, the presentation. So let's take a look at the my function interface here. My function interface contains a single abstract method which take the name and age argument. Okay, now if I take a look at my class here, again my class has two methods. One is taking two arguments and the other one is taking one argument. So this is the one that actually matches with this function interface, right? Name and age. Okay, maybe I should have this one, my class, right here. So the function interface has method name and age and string and int type, and then we have a static method called existing static method and name and age, and we have another one that takes just a single name here. So when you're using method reference, it will actually use this guy. So let's take a look at the main. So here again, this is the anonymous inner class example, and this is the using Lambda expression. So I'm just using existing static method of my class and name and age, and so this one is nothing complicated. Now this code could be replaced with method reference because they are using same method reference and same method signature. So this is the same thing as this. Okay, so what compiler does, it will take a look at existing static method, okay, and it will take a look at the the method and see whether it in fact contains the same method signature as in the function interface, okay, and if it does, yeah, then it will actually use it. Okay, now let's actually try to do so here we are going to be able to actually use this object and call it. Now if I actually try to call another abstract method with this guy, then it's going to be a compile error, okay, because this one does not have the same method signature as in the function interface of this guy. All right, so this is a compile error. All right, yeah, so I don't think I'm gonna give you guys enough time to do the lab exercise. Why don't I do that? I mean, we have 55 minutes, and I'll give you 5 minutes to do this exercise. So here, what I want you to do is create another overloaded static method called my existing static method, and you're going to take two string arguments, name and hobby, and which will print out, hello saying your hobby is golf or something like that. Create another function interface which take these two, which contains the method, abstract method, which takes these two string arguments, and then create an object of my functional interface 2 in 3 different ways: anonymous inner class, lambda expression, and method reference, and they should all work fine. You can skip the anonymous inner class because it's provided just for the comparison, but you can just create the lambda expression version and method reference version and see whether those two things are working exactly the same. So I'll give you 5 minutes to do that exercise. So let me continue to continue explaining the rest of the exercise of the static method reference. So that is a case where we are actually using function interface as a variable. Now the next example is we are using functional interface as a method, so not much of a big deal. So again, we have the same method reference. So in this case, the name and age, okay, and my class has the same name and age things. But if you take a look at the main method, so here we also have a method which is receiving my functional interface as an argument, and rest of it actually is the same thing. So when you're passing function interface, here you can use the lambda expression, and here you can use the method reference. Okay, so the only difference between this one and previous exercise is that we are passing lambda expression and method reference as an argument. Okay. The next one is sort. So let's take a look at this example. Let me just close all this guy. So here we have person, the class, and then we have main class. Okay. So here we are going to have this is a case that we are using anonymous class for sorting. So here we have the array sort, and then this is the array of person, and then we have used comparator, and then we have a logic of compare. Now we are using lambda expression. So basically we are taking this argument, person A and person B, and then the logic of this guy is going to be just here. Okay, so here in this case we could actually use another static method in the person class. Suppose if you have a person class that contains the compare by name static method that take this A and B, in this case person A and person B, okay, then we should be able to use as a method reference. Okay, so if you take a look at the compare by name and static method, so basically it contains person A and person B, right? Now, if you take a look at the function interface of the comparator in this case, is basically taking the function interface of let's see. Yeah, okay, so I was actually looking at this guy. Yeah, so basically, we are using the same method signature A and B, and the static method, and basically we are basically talking about the comparator, comparator interface. So if you actually take a look at the comparator interface, it should have actually the compare method that take the two different type, A and B, right? So person A and person B. So it should be the same method signature. So we should be able to actually use method the method reference like this. Okay. So that is a short case. Now you might actually see the sysout example once in a while in somebody else's code. So let's actually take a look at this guy. So here, main here. So you probably seen something like this: system.out : println. This is a method reference. Okay, and this is again the same thing as the lambda expression of this. Okay. So here we are getting, we get the person object as an argument, and we are basically using the person object as an argument for system out println. Okay. So basically, if you take a look at the println statement, it's basically taking a single argument, and basically that's all we need here. Yeah. So if you actually see the system out println, this is the same thing as this lambda expression. Okay, so nothing really complicated here. So this is just considered as the method reference. Okay, taking a single argument. Make sense? So here, let's take a look at the my function interface. It's just taking a single argument, right? Okay. And so display something, we have person, and my function interface object is being received, right? So basically, as long as this lambda expression is the type of this guy, and of course this guy is the same thing. When you see println, the method should have the same method signature of my function interface, which is basically receiving a single person object and then do something about it. Okay. All right, so that is a sysout println case. Now we have another example here in consumer. So if you actually see this example, my functional interface, this is basically consumer interface that we learned before, right? So instead of actually using our own my function interface, we should be able to use consumer interface. That is basically what this is doing. So we're gonna just use consumer interface, rather than our own. Okay, and the rest of it is the same. So instead of using our own interface, we're gonna use the consumer interface, and it's receiving the consumer person type, and the rest of the code should work exactly the same. Okay. And I have actually, for your own exercise, modified display something method above to accept the generic type instead of the person type, and create fruit and name and color field and display it using lambda expression. So in general, whenever you are using a particular type, you want to actually strive for actually using generic type. Okay, so instead of person, I should be able to actually use like a consumer type, generic type of T. So for the sake of the time, let me actually show the solution here. So I want to actually receive, so I actually converted this display something with a generic type. So I should actually take this guy as a T and consumer type of T, and then because it's the method, we should actually say T here to make sure to indicate that this is in fact the generic type rather than regular type. Okay. And then rest of the code is the same. Okay. Let's see. So that is the static method. Okay. Since we have done the exercise of the this one, let's actually move forward. So that is the static method reference. Now let's take a look at the constructor method reference. So it works. It is very similar to static method reference. The only difference is that method name happened to be new, and of course new has a special meaning in Java. It is actually special. You can think of a special static method for creating a new object, right? Okay. So let's actually take a look at an example. So here, suppose if you have the lambda expression, you receive some kind of argument, in this case array, the array of char, and then you are using array of char to create a string object. This one could be changed to use the method, constructor method reference, like a string : new. Okay, the reason is because the string, if you take a look at the string class, it has the constructor method that can take the char array. Okay, so string class has a constructor method of taking char array. So compiler, when you take a look at the string : new, it will try to find if there is a constructor method in the string class that take this char array. Okay, again, that's the method signature. Okay. If it is, then everything is working as expected. Okay. All right, so that is the constructor exercise. So let's take a look at the, we have a few constructor exercise here. So this is the my functional interface. So this one has a single method called the create object, and it's returning this type of t. And then we have a main method. Okay, so let's actually delete all this guy. Main method, then function interface. So here, this is using lambda expression. So I'm actually taking no argument, and I'm just returning new data object. Okay, so this one doesn't take any argument, right? So this is the same thing as date : new. Okay, because my function interface has basically a single abstract method which doesn't take any arguments. So I should be able to actually use this lambda expression like this, and this one could be replaced with date : new, because you can actually use any object new with the default constructor like this. Okay. Now let's take a look at the next example. So this is an example where we are going to actually see a constructor that takes two arguments. So here, let's see, here, let's actually get the main method here, and then my function interface. Okay. So we have my function interface take the, this is an example that we have seen in the slide. So we have my function interface, which has a single create string method, which take the char array. Okay, all right. So now basically, and it create the string object, right? So this is the lambda expression. We basically take the char array of this, and then we are going to pass it as a constructor argument when we're creating a string object. Now, if you take a look at the string class, Shift F2, we should have the constructor method that takes the char. So let's actually take a look at the constructor. So this is a constructor. So there is a constructor that takes the char array. Yeah, this is the one. So because there is a constructor that takes the char array, we should be able to actually use the string : new. So when the compiler take a look at this string : new, it will take a look at the string classes, and if it see if it is if it actually has a way of, if it has a constructor that takes this char array. Okay. Excuse me, sorry about that. If that is the case, we should be able to actually use this guy. Okay. All right, so in this case, create a new functional interface which creates the string object with the 3 argument, char array, and then you have offset and count, and of course there is a constructor of this guy. Note that string class has a constructor that takes these 3 arguments, and then I want to create a string using both the lambda expression and constructor reference and display the result. Okay, so I'm gonna actually show the solution, and we'll just move on. So we have my functional interface like this, which is taking 3 of this, and then we have a main method, which basically this is the lambda expression, which taking a 3 argument, okay, char array and int, and this lambda expression could be written with new method reference like this. Okay. Let's see. Let's take a look at the third example. This is the constructor O3. So let's here main, and then function interface here. Okay, so we have function interface. In this case, we take this interface as a generic type UVR, and then it create an object using the first U and V, and you return R. Okay, so that is the function interface that we have defined. Okay, and if you take a look at the main code here, so basically what we do, let's actually take a look at. What we do is, this is a way that we are going to, so this is my function interface with these 3 types, and this is the variable, and it's taking name and age, and then it's creating a person object. Okay, and then we are basically using this function interfaces method to create Sang, and whose age is 33, and then it returns a person object. Okay. Now, because this function interface method, which is taking the UVR, 3 different type, okay, and because we have, if you take a look at the person, person class. So let's take a look at the person class here. And let me just show person class here. We have a create. Let's see. Which one are we looking at? We have, let's see. Yeah, person new. Oh, okay. So what I meant is actually show this constructor. Yeah. So we have a constructor method takes the this same set of arguments. So string, name, and age. We should be able to use a constructor new here. Okay. If you don't have this constructor, suppose if we have comment this guy out, right, then it's going to be a compile error. Okay, there is no constructor in person class that takes this same way of same way of actually receiving this guy U and V, right? Okay. In our case, it's a function interface of taking the string and integer. Okay, so it doesn't have that constructor taking a string and integer, so it will actually cause a compile error. Okay, all right, so that is okay, and then it should work as expected. So let's run this guy. Okay, so it worked. Let's see. So that, and for your exercise, create a student class with a name, school, and grade, and create a student object using both lambda expression and method reference. And then you're going to create the appropriate function interface using generic type. Okay, so let me actually show the solution here. So we have my function interface is the same, and then we have a student, which has a constructor of taking name, school, and grade. Okay, and in the main method, we should be able to actually use both lambda expression. So we are using, in this case, this is the using lambda expression, and here we are using the method constructor method reference. Okay. I don't think you have time to do this exercise, but I want you to actually take a look at the solution on constructor and see whether it makes sense. As long as you have, as long as you get some understanding, that should be good enough for now. Since we don't have time, I don't have, we just don't have time for you guys to do this exercise on your own. So as long as you understand the how things work, that should be good enough. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes to. Next is reference to an instance method of an object. So we have seen two examples. The first example is reference to static method of a class, and the second example is the new method of a class. And now we are going to see how we can use a method reference to an instance method of an object. Okay. So it works pretty much the same, except that the method you are taking advantage of is an instance method rather than static method. Okay. Okay, so let's see an example here. So we have functional interface called my functional interface, and it does have my single abstract method, again taking name and age. So that is a method signature that has to match with the existing instance method. So if you see my class here, and it does have existing instance method that taking name and age, so I should be able to use this existing instance method as a method reference. Okay. Because this is an instance method, we have to create an object. So here we create my new my class, and we have a my class my object here. And then suppose if we have a lambda expression, name and age, and here we should be able to use existing instance method of my object, and now I should be able to use my object colon existing instance method. So the difference between number 1 and number 3, meaning static method reference versus the instance method reference, is just not much difference, except that static method is from a static method, and instance method is from an instance. Okay. Okay, so let's see example the exercise 3 instance methods. So the one that we are going to work on is this guy, lambda method reference instance method of a particular object. Okay, so we have two examples here. So let's take a look at the my function interface. This is the same function interface we have seen before, and then we have the person class. Person class has this is the instance method. This is not a static method, and then it's taking name and age. It's the same method signature as our function interface. So let's have this guy. Yeah, so again, the same method signature, string name and int age, string name, int age. Okay, and then we have this main class, in which we are going to see how we can actually use a method reference. So here we create a person object, and again, this is an example where we are using anonymous inner class, and this is an example where we are using lambda expression. So here we receive name and age, and then we are using existing instance method. Okay, and this is an person object, right? And then we should be able to use method reference person colon existing method, and it should work exactly the same. So let's run this guy. Oops. Okay, so it worked as expected. Okay, so for your exercise, create a student class, name, school, and field, and add instance method, and use anonymous inner class, lambda expression, and method reference, each of which uses the instance method. And you have to create the new functional interface. It's pretty straightforward. So let me actually move on to the next one. So this is an example. Okay, so we got the same person, the class. So here we have same person class, and then this is the comparison provider. Okay, so we have the new class called the comparison provider, which has a new instance method which actually compare person A and person B. Okay, and now in our main we have again we are using lambda expression for comparing, and then here we are using so we create the the comparison provider object, and here we are using lambda expression. Okay, so here we are using two person object as an argument, then we are using instance method of my comparison provider, and here this part should be able to be captured as the method reference. Okay, so here we are using object, my comparison provider object, and the name of the method. Okay. Okay, for your own exercise, create another instance method called compare by age, which compares two person object with age and sort people based on their age, and try both lambda expression with existing method, existing instance method, and then use instance method use method reference using instance method. Okay. All right, so it's relatively straightforward example. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes to digest this exercise. Okay, again, I don't think we have time to do the exercise, so I'm gonna just give you a few minutes to kind of understand the code. So the last one is the most, I would say, complex, but if you understand what what goes inside, it's not that bad. It's a reference to an instance method of an arbitrary object. Okay, so here it produces the lambda with the first argument being the object in which the method is called. So this is kind of special case. So this is in fact the difference between this this case and the number 3 case. So number 3 case, it receives just the arguments, right? But in number 4 case, the first argument is the object in which the object is called. Okay, so let me show an example. And the rest of the arguments are the arguments of the method. So that should be the same with number 3, instance method, reference of a particular object. Okay, so now let's see an example here. You want to write a lambda expression as following. So we have array.sort and we have a string array. Then we have received two arguments, string A and string B. Now in your code, you are going to use the first one as the object to perform some operation. So in this case, A comma the compared to ignore case B. Okay. So if the first argument happened to be the same object you are going to perform some operation, then you can use this method reference of instance method of an arbitrary object. Okay. Now here, the way that you are going to use this method reference is you are going to use containing method type. So in this case, it's going to be string. String is definitely a type. It's not an object, right? And then it's using compare to ignore case instance method. So if you take a look at compare to ignore case method, that is instance method. Okay. All right. So that is how you are going to use this notation. Now let's take a look at another example. So here we have a function interface called the my interface, which is which actually has 3 generic type T1, T2, and all. And we have apply method, which is taking T1 as a receiver and T2 as argument and returns all. Okay, so this is the case. The first argument is actually the object that you are performing some operation. Okay, so now let's take a look at the my class. My class has existing instance method, which is taking in this case string object, and that string object is being performed on. So it's calling length method from that string object. Okay, So in this case, we have again example of lambda expression and usage of method reference. So let's take a look at this example here. So it does have my class and string integer as a generic type, and the argument is receiving is my class. That is the first argument. Okay, that is the first argument, and then we have the string type. Okay, and basically we are using the first argument, in this case my arbitrary object, which is a type of my class, and then we are actually calling instance method of it. In that case, what we can do is we can actually use my class : existing instance method. Okay, so if you take a look at existing instance method, it doesn't require as in the case of number 3 reference, in that case it has to have the same the number of arguments basically with this guy, right? However, in this case, because the first argument is represented by the object that is calling this instance method, it just received the second, basically we have only second argument. If you happen to have a third argument, it's going to be s1, comma s2 and things like that. Okay, so in that case, basically we are using this notation: my class : existing instance method. Okay, so this is a little bit, it might actually look a little bit confusing, but if you see some examples, then it might not be that bad. So let's take a look at this example. Let's just close all. So we have these cases. So we have this one and this one. So let's take a look at this example here. My class. Yeah, so we have a single class that contains everything, which is a bit convenient. So we have functional interface called the my interface, which has a generic type of t1, t2 and all. Okay, and we have apply method, in which is taking t1 as receiver, t2 as an argument, and then returns all. Now we have my class, and we have this existing instance method, which is taking the string object, and basically it computes the length of it and it returns integer. Okay, all right, so let's take a look at this main method. This one is actually being used as a method that you are going to pass the interface later on, so don't worry about this guy for now. So we have lambda expression assigned to a variable. So we have my interface of this generic type, my functional, and here we are receiving my class object and the string, and then we should be able to call my class object and existing instance method. Okay, so basically it's passing a single argument of s1, and my class is being used as an object that you are performing some operation against. Okay, and when you actually call apply method of your function object, then it will return result 1 of integer. Okay, now this this lambda expression should be able to be written with this method reference: my function 2, my function, I'm sorry, this is the one I was looking at, my class : existing instance method. Okay, so you can see this is basically the my class is the containing type, and this one is existing instance method. Okay, so this is the case that we are using that method reference and lambda expression to a variable. We are assigning to a variable. This is the case that we are actually passing them as an argument. We have a test method which is receiving my interface, my function interface type. Okay, and here this is the lambda expression that we are passing as an argument, and here we are passing method reference as an argument. Okay, all right, so for your own exercise, create a new I should say new class called your class, and that has a method that takes a string and concatenate itself. Okay, so JPassion becomes JPassion or something like that. Use my interface and display the result using both the lambda expression and method reference using this notation, method reference of arbitrary object. Okay, so that is the first example, and there is a solution for that. The next example, let's see the next example. So here we have a main method. Okay, so we have in this case the person array, and we're gonna actually again using sort method. So in this case, sort, we are using this lambda expression. We are passing person A and person B, and we are going to use A. So if you see, we are basically using first the argument as an object that from which we are going to call compare by name instance method. So here is taking the another person object, right? So in that case, instead of using this lambda notation, we should be able to use this method reference person, which is a class, and then it is compare by name instance method. Okay, and the same thing with this guy. All right. So for your exercise, create an array of integer called integer array. Call arrays.sort with array and method reference. Okay. And create public static and display things and display things method to display personal array, string array, and integer array. So here we are actually trying to take advantage of generics. Okay. All right, so this is a bit more complex than the other three, but the main difference is basically the operation that is being performed against is basically from the first argument. Okay. And you probably see these examples here and there in sample applications you are going to encounter, and at least you should know this is in fact the method reference, one of the method references that you can actually use. Okay, so we have just 6 minutes, so let me make sure that I